Please help me welcome Representative Mike Doogan, a Democrat from Anchorage, Alaska. He was a former journalist, and I used to like to read some of his stuff, and he has a new book out, so please help me welcome Representative Doogan.
Thank you, Mr. Scan. I don't know if everybody knows about the senator joke. When publicity was sent around the Capitol building, it listed me as a senator, and I thought, hot dog, I'm in the Senate. Maybe I'll go see if I can't get that Lyman Hoffman's office. But it turned out it was just a mistake, and one of my colleagues in the House pulled me aside and says, well, you know what the Senate is, don't you? You don't want to go there. I said, why not? He said, well, the Senate is where House members go when they die if they've been really bad. When I got an email to speak to the Native Issues Forum, I thought, good, I can get to grips with my Native issues. You know, things like, why is that Woody Salmon so much better looking than I am? Or, why is Albert Kukesh so much better looking than I am, and he's a better basketball player? But I didn't think that those were actually the kind of issues that you wanted me to talk about. So I'm going to instead talk about a couple of things that I know a little bit about. There's a lot going on up on the Hill, and you know, other people might talk about different things, but I wanted to talk about two. One is the situation with regard to payments to senior citizens in Alaska. And right now, the situation is this. We have a longevity bonus program that essentially pays up to $250 to a certain number of people who were 65 years old or older during a certain period of time here. It has not been funded, I guess, for what, 3 or 4 years, something like that. As a replacement to that, the Murkowski administration, you remember Frank Murkowski was governor, and we're having a really good time, put in a program called Senior Care, which pays $100 a month to people who make right now, if you made, let's see, I wrote these down so I wouldn't forget them, about $17,250 or less, you could qualify for that $100 payment. A third option has been added now, and that's an option called Senior Assistance, and it would not fund the longevity bonus, not fund senior care, and substitute a program that works like this. If you made up to $8,500 a year, that is $8,500 a year or less, you'd be entitled to a $250 a month payment under this program. If you made between $8,500 and about $12,750, you'd be entitled to a payment of $175 a month. And if you made between $12,750 and $17,250, you'd be entitled to a payment of $100 a month. Those numbers I'm giving you aren't really what's in the bill. It says as much as 75% of the federal poverty level, but those are the amounts that they are now. The theory behind this program, which is a theory that I endorse, is that we should be giving more money to people who need it more, and that in caring for senior citizens, just like in everything else, we should be giving money to people who need it before we do anything else. But anyway, those are the three options that are in front of the legislature now. If you like one of them better than the others, you should let your representatives know that. The second thing I wanted to talk about was the thing that I've actually been spending almost all my time up in the Capitol building on lately, and that's the governor's gas pipeline plan called the Alaska Gas Line Incentive Act. And what it is it's a process by which the state selects what they call a licensee, who then goes forward and tries to get people to commit gas to build a pipeline. Of course, like everything up in the Capitol, it's not anywhere near that simple. There's a whole bunch of, you know, things to argue about in this bill. I was talking earlier to some of the legislative staff and saying it's that classic example of a big important bill and lots of things to fight about, so we're going to be at this for a while, I think. Right now, I'm working with it because the Oil and Gas Committee has got the bill in the House. It's going to progress along. There's some doubt that we'll even get it done during this session. There's already talk now about having to go into a special session about it. But because of the fact that without a gas pipeline, we can't figure out how to pay the state's bills really in the not too distant future, it's important to everybody. Some of the things that are now in the bill that might be of interest to you is there is both Alaska hire and Alaska contractor language. There's been talk of what they call a project labor agreement for it as well, which is another way of trying to get Alaskan union members jobs on it. And then there's a whole bunch of provisions that would affect the state's finances one way or the other. Like I said before, there are, you know, lots of other pieces of legislation going up there, some of which I know just about enough about to be dangerous, some of which seem to be proceeding through the system without the benefit of my input, which is fine with me. But these are two, I think, that are going to happen. We're going to do something about senior citizens assistance this session. So if you're interested in that, you really need to weigh in on it. And I'm convinced that even if we don't finish it this session, we'll get to it in a special session probably not too long after it's over. So we may be in Juneau much longer than you folks who live here would like. We're going to do something about the gas pipeline as well. So with that, I want to leave plenty of time for the task force to talk. I don't know, should I try and answer questions now, or you want to leave that till later?
Anyone have a couple questions? Brad?
What's your position on pension obligation bonds and the problem with pension funds? And where is that with this legislature about a $10 billion problem?
Well, I think we've got, if I'm not mistaken, we have another bill to try to fix the problems that the Senate Bill 141 caused 2 years ago. So we're still trying to patch that up. But the real problem right now with the pension funds is there's not enough money in them to meet the obligations of the funds themselves. And the only solution to that is to put money into them. We're putting, I think the proposal now is to put a big chunk of general funds in to try to pay down that liability. I'm not a big fan of pension obligation bonds simply because I don't like the idea of bonding for operating costs, which those really are. I don't mind bonding if we're going to build something, you know, but bonding for things that we should be paying, you know, just regular operating money for are not my favorite thing. But that being said, the liability's big. And as long as we've got surpluses, we can afford to pay cash year to year. But if we don't have surpluses, then we're going to have to find a different way to do that. So I think it was Everett Diverkson who said, I'm a man of principle, and my first principle is flexibility. You know, in principle, I'm against these bonds, but in practice, I may end up supporting them just because we got to get the money someplace. I just don't think there's an option that we tell, you know, retired state employees, sorry, we're not paying you